The story of drama as we know it begins in a particular place and a particular time. Athens in the 6th century before Christ. At that time, Greece was not a single country but a mass of competing city-states, or polis, the Greek term describing a body of citizens. But in the late 6th century, the polis of Athens pulled ahead of the others politically, economically, and culturally.
In the last part of the 6th century BC, Athens was the breeding ground for two extraordinary inventions. The first was democracy. Athens was ruled not by kings or by cliques of aristocrats, but by the votes of its own citizens. But the second was theatre. Athens invented an entirely new art form, drama. And these two inventions were tightly intertwined at the beating heart of Athenian society. And both of them were the result of an extraordinary cultural revolution.
At this time, the whole of ancient Greek culture underwent a historic transformation. The revolution extended from architecture to literature, from vase painting to philosophy. You can see the impact of that revolution clearly in how Greek sculpture developed. In the middle 6th century, it was rigid, stylized, lacking movement and life, but then things began to change. By the 5th century, Greek artists began to produce some of the greatest lifelike sculptures ever made. It all amounted not just to a new looking world, but to a whole new view of the world. We call it the classical world, and in this groundbreaking epoch, drama was perhaps the biggest innovation of them all. Tales of love, death and war had always been passed on by storytellers, and epic poems like Homer's Iliad and savage myths had been celebrated in choral dance and song, but the Athenians added actors and invented the idea of performance. These epic stories would now play out not only in the mind, but live on stage. This was more than innovation, this was a revolution.
Never before in the Greek tradition that we know of, in the Greek storytelling tradition, were things enacted rather than narrated. So instead of having, and then the king drew his sword and said, instead a person actually draws a sword and speaks. I know we sort of say, well, children do that, but to do it with serious storytelling, with storytelling that actually delves into important roots in human behaviour, that is a very new step. And to have it done in front of you, I think that must have been a very, very startling innovation.
The son of Thyestes.
Ancient Greek drama looked and sounded very different from drama as we know it today. There were no more than 3 or 4 actors. There was a chorus who interrupted the action with song and dance, and all the performers wore masks.
When an actor began to enact rather than narrate, there's a kind of dangerousness about that. That the actor has to become a woman. The actor has to become a slave. The actor, perhaps even more dangerously, has to become a god. And it's almost as if the mask is a kind of signal of the profession that protects the actor against the danger of doing these things.
Blood shoot of Atreus, destroyer!
The chorus are costumed and masked in an identical or near identical way. And they move and speak as a group. The chorus is not a bunch of individuals. For the Greeks, the chorus was a group, in which, in a sense, they submerge their identity. And what the chorus does is, in its groupness, it tries to make sense of what it's witnessing. They're deeply emotionally involved, and the suffering becomes a song. And the chorus, as a group, and with its group response, sings its choral lyrics.
You did it! Plotted it! You! Single-handed! The people will stone you! You don't stand a chance!
It seems to me that the crucial thing is that it is simultaneously a very strong emotional experience and a very strong thought experience.